Grab a cup of tea or a glass of wine and tune in for Inspired Conversations with publisher Linda Joy. On Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern, Linda creates sacred space for leading female luminaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. A soulful venue where guests openly share the fears and obstacles they've overcome, wisdom and lessons learned, and the personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired Conversations to empower you on your path to authentic, soulful living.
Welcome to Inspired Conversations. This is your host, Linda Joy, publisher of Aspire Magazine, the premier inspirational magazine for women. And I'm so excited to say we're celebrating our 10th year. I'm also the 6-time best-selling publisher behind the boutique publishing company, InspiredLivingPublishing.com, which is dedicated to giving visionary female entrepreneurs, coaches, and health practitioners a voice and a high-profile media and publishing platform to share their wisdom, enhance their expert status, and bring their brand out of the shadows as a best-selling author. All of my brands, including this show, are dedicated to inspiring women like you to live their best lives. So welcome and enjoy today's Inspired Conversation. You know, undertaking the challenge of discovering who we really are and creating the life we're meant to live may be the most important and I think the most rewarding adventure we'll ever experience. I know for myself, my life began to transform when I began living from the inside out, which was probably about 25 years ago, instead of what the world advises, which is from the outside in. And today's show is all about learning how to do just that, and also learning to decipher the difference between the voice of our ego and the voice of our soul, which empowers us to live a soul-infused life. And I'm so excited because joining me today is my dear friend, holistic psychotherapist, wisdom teacher, and best-selling author, Kailean Welsh. Specializing in practical spirituality, she is passionate about returning psychotherapy to its roots as care of the soul. Oh, I love that. Kailean works with clients at her office in Wisconsin as well as virtually, offering transformational programs, presentations, classes, and with compassion and connection, she helps people heal at their core and illuminate their best self. Welcome, Kailean.
Thank you, Linda. It's just wonderful to be on your program, and I'm so thrilled that these inspired conversations that you have are now circling the globe even further. It's wonderful to be here.
Well, I always love sharing space with women like you because I think so many are doing amazing work in the world and getting women to see that everything is possible, but it takes some work and it takes diving in. And I think I want to dive in with you at the use of the term practical spirituality because I love it. I love what it implies, and I would love your thoughts on what it is before we dive into even deeper conversation about the soul and the ego. So what does practical spirituality mean to you?
Maybe I should start just very briefly differentiating what I mean by the word spirituality. And when I talk about spirituality, I'm really talking about what I see as the foundation of all life. You know, and we talk about it as an aspect of wholeness, you know, that we're physical, mental, emotional, spiritual beings. But it's not like we really have a spiritual part and a non-spiritual part. So I kind of look at spirituality as being the foundation of all of our existence. It's kind of the cord, the anchor, the glue that kind of pulls together all life. And so then when I talk about practical spirituality, I'm talking about how do we live this? How do we move it beyond lip service into our daily lives? What does that look like? How does that change the way that we live? How does that change the way that we interact with each other? How does that change the way our system is run? To me, that's practical spirituality. How do we do this in our daily life?
I love that term because really all of us can connect with that because it's about living moment by moment and being connected. For me, it means being connected to all that is, whatever that all that is to an individual, right? It's not about labeling it. It's about having that connection. You know, I don't know about about you, Kailean, or your clients, but I've heard so many stories of women like me, I'm raising my hand right now, who waited until they went through the most difficult times in their lives. I call what I call cosmic 2x4s, before we really begin to look deeper inside ourselves and connect with our soul. Why do we wait so long?
Well, Linda, I think that's one of the interesting pieces of the human condition. I think that's part of our journey here. I think that's just kind of part of the way that it works. It has until this point. Not to say that this can't change, but I think it is in the depths of our humanity that we find our divinity. We've been so externally focused on what's going on around us that it really takes some powerful experiences, highs or lows, to really put us in touch with what is sacred and what is divine for us. I think that can change as we learn to live a little bit more in gratitude and in self-love and in compassion and acceptance and some of those things. Maybe we don't have to go so far to the depths, which is one of the reasons why I think these inspired conversations are so important. I think we can change this, but it is going into the darkness is what opens the door, unlocks the key, kind of gives us this moment where we got to go and find something deeper going on here. And I know that was, I know you raised your hand, but I raised mine too. Certainly that's where many of us have been, I think, is in the depths of some of the darkness. And I really have come to believe that it is in the messiness of ordinary life that we find our divinity. We have to go through our humanity.
It's so beautiful in the messiness of the human, in our human life. And for me, I can only speak from my personal experience when I'm holding these conversations. For me, I used to run from the messiness, the fear, the heavy energies, the grief and all that, because I didn't want to deal with it, right? Especially in my 20s. I'd say teens to like late 20s. It wasn't until I finally turned inward, as we were discussing in the intro, and said, I am so tired of running away from myself, because it took more energy to run, emotionally, physically, spiritually, to run from myself and those issues than it did to face them. That was a big aha for me, like, oh my God, I'm giving my life force energy away by not dealing with this stuff. So let me turn around, right, inward and face these things. And it was a hard decision, but it changed my life.
Well, I think that is what has to happen a lot of times, Linda. We kind of get knocked to our knees because we are spending so much time unknowingly, really unaware. We're trying to figure out, why is our lives so messy? Why are all these things happening? Why do these negative things keep occurring for me? We're looking for the answers, and we're, kind of scurrying around trying to figure out how to make things different. And it kind of takes them, I think, getting hard enough where we just kind of do get knocked to our knees and go, what the heck here? That's the surrender point that causes us to really go, wow, what really is going on here? What is the bigger picture? How do I move away from this pattern of chaos and dysfunction that I've been operating on? And so it is when we get knocked down far enough, we really start questioning, there's got to be more here. There's got to be something bigger going on. And I think that's when we start having that inner conversation that really allows us to start making some change.
And for me, too, it was having multiple cosmic 2x4s. I used to joke that I was a slow learner because, jeepers, I made the same mistakes over and over again. And especially at that point in my life, do you see that repetitive pattern with others who are on this path?
I think we all keep trying just a little harder. We keep doing what we know, just a little bit harder. But what we know really isn't the complete truth, I guess is what I want to say. The way that we think we're supposed to be operating, we're supposed to be going after, I don't know, more material stuff, relationships. We're looking for it externally, and that's where we're going wrong. we really have to start looking internally. So again, we just keep trying harder, thinking we're going to do something different. This time it's going to be different. We're going to make it. We're going to get over the top or something. But we're going in the wrong direction. We just don't know better.
And when we do, then we do better.
When we know better, we do better. When we know better, we start the process, because it is a process. It's not like, all of a sudden some light bulb comes on and we go, okay, now I get it. We have ever-increasing awarenesses that allow us to make ever-increasing different steps. And they take us deeper. They take us deeper into ourselves and into our lives, into our emotions, into our thoughts. They take us deeper. And I guess I also want to throw out, depending on how you want to look at things, but they take us higher. They give us more. Not only do we, get deeper into ourselves, but it opens up the world in a way that we see things from a different picture. But it's a process. It takes time.
And that's how I feel. I feel like a lot of people have asked me, you spend a lot of time going inward and, working on my spirituality, working on myself. And I said, you know what? My life is going to pass by. And I want to spend it doing something that fills me up, feels good, allows me to be the best person that I can. And for me, that's a key element of my life. And I want to talk more about that. And I also want to dive in, talk about the voice of our ego and the voice of our soul, how we can decipher the difference when we come back from this break. You're listening to Inspired Conversations with Linda Joy. I'll be back in a moment with my special guest, Kailean Welsh of KaileanWelsh.com.
A conscious lifestyle for a mindful life. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
We can all use a little more peace and joy in our lives. Don't you agree? Counselor, best-selling author, and self-nurturing expert Kelly Grimes of CultivatingPeaceandJoy.com is passionate about empowering overwhelmed and exhausted women to live with more peace, joy, and meaning through the practice of self-nurturing. Through her experience working with individuals, speaking, providing workshops, and teaching professional and leadership development to forward-thinking organizations, Kelly knows that nurturing peace in the world begins from the inside out. That's why she created the free Cultivating Peace and Joy mobile app that brings you beautiful self-nurturing reminders, guided meditations, empowering practice tools, and daily prompts with an inspiring question to guide your daily self-nurturing practice. Download your free Cultivating Peace and Joy mobile app today at cultivatingpeaceandjoy.com.
Are you trying to get from point A to point B and need a little advice? Connect with the counselors at OMTimes Advisors. Whether you're looking for a life coach or a spiritual intuitive, the advisors participating at advisors.omtimes.com were carefully chosen based on their gifts, skills, and professionalism. OMTimes Advisors, connecting you with the best advisors in the business.
Do you have time to read that inspiring book or that blog post you've been meaning to get to? In your busy world, how do you improve yourself and keep your life going? I'm Lisa Kay, and my Between Heaven and Earth radio show can transform your life just by listening. Be uplifted with inspiring topics, positive stories, and ideas that really work. Between Heaven and Earth Radio is conscious living for your soul, every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
Hey, America, we need to have a little talk. We've got more food than we know what to do with in this country, yet 17 million kids in America are struggling with hunger. Makes no sense. Luckily, the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks has volunteers gathering excess food and getting it to hungry kids. They're kind of like food angels. Hey, become a food angel yourself by supporting Feeding America in your local food bank at feedingamerica.org. We can't do it without your help. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
This is OTR-FM, part of the IOM Radio Network.
Welcome back to Inspired Conversations. This is Linda Joy, your host. And right before we left for commercial break, my special guest tonight, Kailean Welsh, we're talking about living from the inside out, what it takes, why we sometimes wait for that cosmic 2x4 or a couple of them before we really start turning inward. And Kailean, in the intro we talked about how to decipher. And I think this is a big question that I've been asked a lot. How do you know, Linda, when it's the voice of your ego or the voice of your soul that is guiding you to the next step? I'd love your thoughts on that, Kailean.
That's another one of those skills that I think develops better for us. We get better at it the more that we try it. The more that we use that muscle, the more skilled we are at hearing it. And part of this goes back to what you were saying, Linda, about using spiritual tools. You do kind of put some time into your life, sounds like, to develop that spiritual part of yourself. And I think as we do that, we are better able at eliminating some of the exterior voices that get us off course, that confuse us about what really is important. But once we can really kind of find our center a little bit, it gets really easy to tell the difference between voice of ego and voice of soul. Because ego is driving, kind of frantic. It's really fear-based. It feels constrictive. I mean, you almost can feel tension as you're, dealing with the voice of ego. The anxiety, all of that kind of constriction starts happening. But when you're listening to the voice of your soul, it's relaxed, I guess I want to say. It just comes easy. It's more peaceful. It can be loud. I mean, you can still get it's a voice in your head or however you hear it, because, again, people hear it in different ways. But it's love-based. It's expansive. It feels movement. It feels moving forward. It feels opening. So that's really how you can tell the difference. You start paying attention to even how your body reacts. If you're feeling physically relaxed, a lot of times that's the voice of the soul. If you're feeling body tension, you notice that your muscles are tight, that's the voice of the ego. And I guess I just want to clarify that, we all have both of these parts in us. And again, when you study psychology, the ego really is a good thing. I don't want to diminish the ego, because the ego is really the part that we develop from birth that helps us figure out who we really are. Where do we stand in the midst of everything else around us? The problem with the ego is that it often gets caught up in limited beliefs or conditioned beliefs about how we are supposed to be or how the world operates that are not 100% accurate. In fact, sometimes some of the messages that we take on about ourselves or the world really come from kind of wounded places. Maybe an example is, the girls really aren't as important as boys, or, whatever the message might be. So the ego can oftentimes be distorted and misaligning. It wants to keep us safe. It wants to keep us in a comfort zone. It just kind of wants to keep our world small, where the soul wants us to go for it. The soul wants us to live all that we're meant to be. And so the soul is constantly pushing us to kind of break out of this containment that the ego wants to put us in. So really the idea is it's not like we want to hear the voice of the soul over the ego. I mean, in a way we do, but really we're not trying to deny the ego. We're trying to integrate the ego. We're trying to take it with us. We're trying to go back and kind of reclaim some of these false beliefs and wounded parts of ourselves and say, come on, we're in this together. Because that's what really allows us to go forward in more wholeness, less fractured, less scattered, and more, again, centered, clear, consistent, together.
And I love what you said, that it's not a negative. The ego is not a negative. It's a part of who we are, and it's there to support us and protect us. But we have to learn how to listen and embrace it, but not allow it to lead our lives.
Right. It is in the ego that is our humanity. That's part of our humanness. And it is, again, we're here having human lives. We're not spiritual beings in some spiritual dimension. I mean, how do I want to say that? We are spiritual beings having a human experience. And so having an ego and developing who we are through that ego is part of the human condition. And so we've got to figure out how do we work with it.
And that, for me, was a big thing. And there's something you said when you were talking about how to tell the difference between ego and soul. I noticed that in the descriptions you used for ego, which were like fear, frantic, driving, constrictive, when you were talking about soul, it was love. And it's funny because one of the questions I always use with clients, I don't use the terms ego and soul. I always say you're always in one of two places, love or fear. And they say, how do you know? And I said, because love is never restrictive. It's expansive. You feel as if you're on the right path. Everything feels large and filled with possibility. And fear makes you feel small and less than. And for me, that's when I have to tune in. If I feel something constrictive in my body, I tune in and go, oh, hello, fear, you're back again. So what do you have to teach me? Where 25 years ago, I would have run like hell when I felt the feeling because I didn't want to face it.
Yeah.
Whatever it may be. It could be a sign that your relationship, it could be financial. We can apply everything you're talking about to any area of our life because that's when the ego will kick up, as when there's something in our life, I call the shadows, that we're not dealing with or that we're being stretched out of our comfort zone. And you and I know as entrepreneurs, especially spiritual entrepreneurs right now, that we're always being called to step out of our comfort zone. So you and I still go between ego and soul every day because it's the path we chose.
I prefer to keep stretching my comfort zone. And so that I know that as I do that, because to me that means that I am becoming more. I am living in a way that better reflects my complete capacity to be who I am. So I continually stretch my comfort zone. And I think it is important that we do so. But even as I do that, I know then that I will be facing fear. It's just part of the deal. Every time that, I think Carolyn Mays talks about this, that every time, you go to make some kind of change in your life, that's going to happen. Fear is going to stop up, and it is the voice of the ego to say, hey, wait a minute, where are you going? Are you sure? What are you doing here? You're messing up our routine. This is where we're comfortable, so get back here. But then we stay stuck. We stay stuck in our ruts. We don't grow. We don't really get the lives that we're looking for. So we've got to be willing to step out of that comfort zone and search a little bit further. And I think it's also important what you're talking about as far as most people are afraid to look. In fact, if you ask most people, they say, I'm not afraid of anything. Excuse me. But most people it's the social fears that get us. Am I good enough? What are people going to think about me? How are people going to respond? Am I going to be able to do this well enough? Am I smart enough? Am I pretty enough? It's the social fears that hold us back. And so we've got to continually walk through them and our other emotions because people do run from them. And I know that looking back over my own life, too, there was a lot of things there that I just did not want to feel. But until we're willing to really feel them and go through them, they fill us with toxic debris, and we're not able to move forward. In fact, often they come forward and run our lives. And so it's so important that we go back and we look at those emotions, even when they're hard, because really they're not as hard as we think they're going to be.
No, and I've discovered for myself that it's harder to live inauthentically than it is to do the work and begin living authentically. It costs me more life energy. And now that you described it as, energetic debris, that's what it felt like. I mean, because health issues come up. The longer we don't face what we need to face, our bodies stop paying the price. Our souls stop paying the price. And for me, that was a big one, is is facing those fears. And they still come up, like you just shared. They come up all the time because I'm constantly stretching myself. Launching a radio show is a prime example. So, it's like what you shared a moment ago. One of the questions I find a lot of women in my audience ask, and my authors and private clients, is, who am I to think I should step out and share my message? And I say, who are you not to? Your soul gave you that idea, that brilliance, that gift, that business, that idea, whatever it is. Who are you not to share that wisdom? And it gets them thinking. And I think that taps them back into their soul energy instead of the fear ego energy. But it's a question I see them doubting themselves all the time. And my role is just to hold space and hold a mirror to remind them, your soul gave you that idea. Your soul helped you birth that project. Who are you not to share it? That's it can become selfish when we hold on to that fear-based thinking and don't, as you shared, you don't shine your light. You don't live your most illuminated life.
So correct, Linda. We're all definitely unique beings, and we all have a specific gift to bring to the table. And if we don't bring it, it's not going to happen.
Yes, and I truly believe that, especially as mission-driven entrepreneurs. And when we come back from our commercial break, I want to talk about, what signs are there that we're living from our soul? How can we tell? And we'll be back in a moment with Kailean Welsh of KaileanWelsh.com.
Free your mind. Expand your soul. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Are you being called to live a bigger life? A life that fills you with passion and purpose? Are you constantly telling yourself that the life you have now should be good enough? Dream Life designer and life coach Karen Species is passionate about empowering women to rediscover, reawaken, and realize their life's desires. Karen knows firsthand the blocks and limiting beliefs that may come up when you follow your heart. She went through them herself when she walked away from a 24-year leadership role to follow her passion, live authentically, and create her dream life and business. Today, Karen successfully guides and supports her clients in designing and creating the life they envision. Stop by KarenSpecies.com to schedule a complimentary discovery session and learn how Karen can support you in creating your dream life. KarenSpecies.com.
OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Hi everyone, this is Shay Parker, the host of Best of the Best, which airs live right here on IOM Radio every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Pacific. I'm super excited to bring you expert guest hosts, spiritual discussions, free psychic readings, and so much more. I can promise that you will not want to miss this one-of-a-kind, fun, yet touching, down-to-earth show. Join us every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Pacific on OTR-FM. This is Shay Parker, and I can't wait to see you there.
The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls Project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill, while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is. Free your mind. Expand your soul. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Hi, you're listening to Inspired Conversations with Linda Joy. Today we're talking with Kailean Welsh of KaileanWelsh.com about the soul, the ego, how to learn to decipher who is leading, what part of you is leading your life. And right before the break, I asked her, what are some of the signs that we are living from our soul? How do we recognize those signs in our life so we can start being aware of them and do them more?
I would love to share some signs from the soul because I think, again, they're kind of, they occur subtly. This being a process, again, it's not like there's just kind of a lightning bolt that all of a sudden we go, oh, there it is. They occur for us all of it over time, and then all of a sudden maybe we do recognize that all of that life has just been, I don't know if I want to say easier, because life continues in its challenges, but our response to life is different. There's just an ease, a comfortableness about our living that changes. That's one of the number one signs. There's kind of this just sense of peace that's just kind of always there, regardless of, whatever kind of chaos, whirlwind is happening around you. And really, even though you feel these fears, you don't get caught in them. You're able to kind of maintain a consistency, a steadiness. That's one of the number one signs. I think another one that's really important to me and has become really valuable in my life is noticing. I think I hear better the messages of my body, but all of my senses, including my sixth sense, this inner wisdom. I hear that more clearly, or I respond to that more clearly. So I'm more aware of my feelings. I am, kind of getting these intuitive ideas or the thoughts that come that guide my choices are more in line with, I think, who I really am at a soul level. You're more in touch with this really core part of who you are. And, I feel, for me, it's really, it shows up, or I feel a greater forward motion, like things are moving, things are happening, instead of just kind of feeling stuck or spinning, not doing the same thing over and over again. So there's a movement. Another sign is, I don't experience a lot of drama in my life anymore. Worry, gossip, fear, I am a full participant in life, but I don't feel like, I feel like I'm able to do that from a little bit more of a detached perspective or a calm, aware perspective. I'm able to kind of take in and process these things that are happening around me and whatever comes to me, but it doesn't get all frantic or urgent. I don't feel that the same way.
That's a big one. I think that was a big one for me and I don't know when it happened. It just happened. It was when you have chaos or drama in your life, and sometimes we all know it happens outside of anything within our control. It could be a family member or someone we love. It could be illness, death, whatever drama it is. But for many years of my life, Kailean, I would feel the drama around me and see it spinning and get sucked right in, right? And I would allow it to alter my peace of mind, my anxiety, etc. And then suddenly, just one day, I realized when a big situation happened in my family, I realized, oh my God, I'm the peace within the storm. How did this happen? And it was because I was done so much inner work that I can hold space for myself now and for others and love them in the midst of the chaos, but not give over my power to the chaos and drama. So have you experienced that too, where it wasn't a conscious choice where one day I'm going to say, I am no longer going to be caught up in drama. It was, I just was spiritually strong enough to not allow it anymore.
Linda, I think you just expressed that very beautifully. And isn't that a lovely feeling?
Oh, yes.
Recognize. It's just, there's such a comfort to that. And to recognize that even for the people around you that are having difficulty, you're able to hold the space. And you bring a calmness then, and you bring a steadiness that is healing for yourself and everyone around you. Beautiful. And that's the way it works. It just kind of sneaks up on you.
Yeah, because I know it wasn't a conscious choice. And it was actually a month later after everything had settled down when I realized, oh my, I just went through that whole experience and was able to keep my emotional, spiritual equilibrium through it all, and actually had two family members come up and say, wow, you handled that with such grace. you got us through it. Even though I didn't do anything for them, I didn't feed the drama. I didn't bring energy to the drama. I poured love onto it and kept seeing it in its highest and best light. And instead of looking at it as, oh my, what if this happens? Oh my, what if that happens? And that's I've come a long way in that 25 years. And I know for so many of our listeners, they think, but you don't understand. It's this family member that I love so much. Of course, we all have family members, or friends, or dear ones that we love so much. But we can be more of service from a love-based, when we stay in our love-based energy.
Completely.
Yeah.
More power to that situation, to heal that situation, than anything else you could have done. And we can do the same for the people around us. And yes, I know what it's like to be caught up in the drama of, serious life. I get that. And you wonder sometimes, why? Why are the people around me experiencing this, or my family? Why are we going through this? But it is not going to do any benefit to get caught up in all that. Really, the benefit comes when we can hold love space, when we can hold steady, when we can look for the good in those difficult times, because it is there. It keeps our feet on the ground. And then part of this, too, really is this connection to the divine. Because we as we kind of really work on this inner place, as we go inward, we do connect with something bigger. We recognize it, even if, we all might define it differently. We might all language it differently. To me, love is a huge power. That's, how do we define the undefinable? We keep trying to do this when we talk about religion and spirituality, and it's really difficult. So but every person's got to find their own kind of way. But you find an anchor that helps you then just kind of recognize that, life is difficult. It can be harder, but there's a deeper truth that just kind of really holds you in place. And I think that's just another one of the gifts of recognizing, or of being able to live more fully from the soul, because it's a connection that supports us no matter what.
Yeah, and it feels so much better, and you and I have spent time together virtually, and we've held a few sacred conversations and got to know each other on a deep level, personally and professionally. And one of your gifts that I've witnessed is your ability to hold space for others. And I think now more than ever, that's what the world needs, is for someone to see us for the truth of who we are, not the roles we play in the world. And you have that gift of holding space for me and for your clients, but just you have that vibe of, I see you for who you truly are, not the stories, roles, or labels. And I call that the authentic self, or we all have different terms for it. And, I just wanted to share that, because that is a powerful gift to have. And I also know it comes from life experience. You had to do your own inner work to get to that point, to be able to hold this kind of energy and space.
Well, thank you, Linda. I do, how do I want to say, I want to live what I believe, and I just, all I can say is I live what I know, and I have been through the trenches, and I look back over my own life, and I can see where I was on my own spiritual evolution as I look back at the way that I handled different things through the course of my life, and I can see the progress, and I can feel the joy that I have the way that I live now compared to the way that I used to. And so I don't want to go back. And if I can do, so I'm going to live the way that I live and the way that I believe, because it's rewarding. It feels great. And so I'm going to live that way, and I hope that I can share that message with other people, because there was a time, certainly it sounds like in your life, but in my life too, where things looked pretty dang bleak. And I'm sure there were people wondering, looking in and thinking, this does not look too good for her. But my life has changed so significantly, and I'm so happy, and it's because I have done the inner work.
And that's what the whole Inspired Conversation show is about, because the show description is about holding sacred space for visionary women like you to come and share their truths, their fears, their journey that led them to the work they're doing in the world. Because I've owned Aspire for 10 years, and one of the things I've noticed is that every one of the spiritual, mission-driven entrepreneurs who are out there, their message today was birthed from the mess of their own lives and the healing they did. And now their life has come full circle for them to serve. And we're going to talk about that more in a moment when we come back from our last commercial break with Kailean Welsh of KaileenWelsh.com.
A conscious lifestyle for a mindful life. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Do you love, accept, and respect the woman you see in the mirror? You are a goddess. But do you treat yourself as one in every area of your life? Are you taking care of you? Or are you last on your to-do list, if you're on it at all? It's time to take off the Superwoman cape and awaken your inner goddess. Psychologist and body love expert Mary Pritchard is passionately dedicated to empowering today's women to heal their relationships with food, their body, and themselves, along with reconnecting with their inner goddess, stepping through perceived fears, and embracing the truth of who they are. Visit drmarypritchard.com to learn more about Dr. Mary's Body Love Group program, private coaching, sacred goddess circles, and to schedule a complimentary chat. drmarypritchard.com.
OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
This is Terry Van Horn, and I want to invite you to join me for my weekly radio show, Healing Light, on OMTimes Radio every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. On Healing Light, we want to bring love, light, and blessings into your world. You can find out more about us at www.healinglightonline.com. Blessings.
Hi, this is Carly Simon for LifeBeat. The music industry fights AIDS. The AIDS crisis isn't over. There have been amazing scientific breakthroughs, but people are still dying, and your local AIDS organization needs your help more now than ever. Volunteer and make a difference.
The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls Project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill, while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is. A conscious lifestyle for a mindful life. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Hi, welcome back to Inspired Conversations. This is your host, Linda Joy, and what a conversation it has been. I'm here with Kailean Welsh, and have been talking about the soul and the ego and signs that you're living from the soul, and which I call living from the inside out instead of the outside in. And right before break, we were talking about how expansive it feels and how so many, especially my guests on this show, that their mess in their own life, right, and I know I'm raising my hand as I say this, was really presented to them to prepare them for the life they're meant to be of service to. So example, did I ever think I was going to be a magazine publisher, best-selling book publisher, radio show host? No. But I look back now and see that every cosmic 2x4 that brought me to my knees, and when I did the inner work, it was to heal me and lead me to the work that I'm meant to do so that I can inspire other women to believe in the power of possibility. So I look back now and say, oh, I see why that had to happen for me to be able to be who I am today. And does that feel authentic to you too, Kailean?
It completely does, Linda. Yeah, I look back over my own life and I can totally see the gifts that I've got, even though at the time it was horrendous or it felt so hard. And I think all of us have a story. And again, I think that's part of our human experience, is that we are going to have these difficult, I don't want to make all of human life feel like it's so hard, because there is joys in the difficulty. But also at the same time, life is not easy. You know, whether it's really hard or whether it's just day to day, trying to pay the bills, keep up with the responsibilities, you know, have a good relationship. I mean, life is just not easy. So we all have a story to share. We all have difficulties that can be, I'm going to say alleviated or whatever. They don't just go away. Life continues because that's the nature of life. But we are able to switch the way that we respond to it. We're able to change the way that we interact with life. You know, and again, I can look back at 3 specific times in my life, 3 exact, well, almost exact experiences. But when I look at those experiences, which were so similar, I was in a different place. Life didn't change. I changed. And it made all the difference.
Exactly. It's that's been my experience too, is as we shift and start living from the inside out, we're not as affected by what goes on around us. And it's such a peaceful place to live from, to exist from. And for all the listeners who right now, I want to say something. You may be in the midst of something right now. Health crisis, relationship end, loss, grief, whatever it may be, right? A story. It's your experience at this moment. Kailean and I get that. We've both been there. We're not trying to minimize what that is. We're trying to say there is another way to experience that same situation. And that's what the show is about, right? We can't change those circumstances. We don't have that power to do that, but we can always choose how we show up in those circumstances. And that's what that show is. But if you're hurting right now and you're in distress about something, I just would love to guide you to get really quiet and go within and give yourself, I call a soul break, you know, and give yourself that gift in the midst of all the drama. And the more and more you do that and find your center, it will help you navigate through what you're going through. And I really felt led to say that because I energetically feel like there's some women on the call right now that are hurting, and I really want to just hold space for you to say, we get that, we've been there, and you can get through this.
And Linda, can I add to that?
Yes, please.
It's very true what you're saying. And 2 of the biggest pieces for me that started helping me turn things around, again, it doesn't change the circumstances, but it changes the way we experience them. The first one is really just simply looking for something good. You know, when things are hard and life is difficult, it's so easy to get caught up to where that's all that we see. But if we can find a glimmer somewhere of some kindness that somebody does for us, or some good moment, or a moment of comfort, or whatever it might be, look for the smallest, whatever it is, look for the good. And the more that you look for the good, the more you'll find it, the more you'll see it, and that makes a huge difference. So look for the good and practice gratitude. Tell people that you appreciate them, you know, be thankful for the things that people do, notice them. So that's kind of one piece, but the second then is really, really work on self-love.
Oh, yeah.
How can I, what kind of kindness can I show myself in this difficulty? How can I set a boundary or speak my truth or let somebody know what I need? How can I ask for help? You know, all things, again, that we're kind of conditioned to not do. We kind of like think we're going to manage things or whatever, but these are the moments where we really have to look for whatever kind of way we can find to practice self-love. What do you need right now? What would feel good for you right now?
Well, it's beautiful advice, because we sometimes forget about ourselves, because when we're caught in the drama, all our attention is going outward, right? Because we're I don't want to say we're disconnected from our soul, because we can never be disconnected from our soul. But our energy is going outwards, and that's why we're feeling anxiety, fear, everything. And when you practice some of the self-love and self-care items like gratitude and finding the good in things, as Kailean just shared, you're bringing the energy back into yourself, right? It's pointing the finger back at yourself when it comes to love. And from that place, you can ground and center in your truth. And the more you do that, the more you nourish yourself. And everyone knows my story. I still struggle with self-care. I'm very transparent about it. It's been an issue since my early 20s about eating and self-care issues. Thankfully, I have a stronger self-care rituals, I guess you can say, stronger now in my mid-50s than ever before, that I can turn to as like a tool chest. And as you spoke of earlier, Kailean, I have a barometer. And if my soul or my body is telling me, oh, Linda, you've been slacking, I'm so tuned in now, I go, oh, yeah, I have been. So thank you for sharing that, because it's such an important aspect for getting through anything you're going through right now, and for all of the women on the call and men who may be struggling. Take the time to love yourself, whether it's a hot bath, your favorite dinner, taking a walk on your favorite path. They all sound simplistic, but it's powerful. I mean, Kailean and I both know from personal experience how powerful those moments can be.
And I want to just reiterate, we're looking for progress, not perfection. None of us are ever going to get this perfect. We're never going to get it. If we do, we probably won't be living on the human plane any longer, because we're not about perfection. You know, we're human. We're going to fall short, right? And that's kind of the definition of sin. We're going to fall short. We're going to miss the mark. So we just keep trying. We do the best we can, and we look for progress, not perfection.
Exactly. And Kailean, as always, I want to thank you for sharing space with me today, for sharing your love and your energy here with my audience. I want to invite everyone to please visit Kailean at KaileanWelsh.com, and I'm going to spell her first name, Kailean. That's KaileanWelsh.com. And I want to thank you, everybody, for being here and joining me for Inspired Conversations. Listen in every Tuesday at 2 p.m. for more conversations with visionary women just like Kailean, who are here to share their feminine wisdom to support you in living your best life. For even more inspiration, claim your free subscription to Aspire magazine, which includes over 40 transformational gifts to support you on this path. And you can grab that free subscription at subscribe-to-aspire.com. Until next time, choose love, choose joy, choose happiness.
Thanks for listening to Inspired Conversations with publisher Linda Joy. Join our sacred space every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern and meet leading female visionaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. Inspired Conversations with Linda Joy is a soulful venue where guests share the obstacles they've overcome, along with wisdom and lessons learned on their personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired Conversations to empower you on your path to authentic and soulful living.